Hey everyone, Chris Mack coming at you today with Adventures of Superman Annual Issue 5. And I said this before, but the Bloodlines title, the annuals, when I was a kid, I hated them because I kind of felt like it deterred from what was happening in the main books. But that was when I was 9, 10 years old. I'm an old fart now, and going back through these, I absolutely enjoy it because I didn't realize it till I read it in this format that the annuals followed all the different beasts that were coming into Earth. So we get a second appearance of Loose Cannon, and we continue to follow those aliens, which I cannot for the life of me remember what they're called. The print date on this one is October 1993, and the creators are Carl Kessel doing the plot and Tom Grummett. Thumbnail art is Tom Grummett. Dialogue is Carl Kessel. Pencils is Ed Hannigan. Inks, Andrew Papoy. Letters, Albert de Guzman. And colors was Tom Zielko. If I pronounced that wrong, feel free to make fun of me. And this is called Blood Relations. So when I first opened this, I was like, why are we going back to the Eradicator? He was taken down. But that's because this is a sort of a follow-up of what happened in, I think it was Action Comics Annual that we first did. It says, so you aided the Kryptonian Superman battle the parasites. Did you, Mr. Cannon? But you can call me Loose. Loose. Short for Lucy. I'm afraid I don't. Never mind. So we're essentially kind of following up with Loose Cannon again, which is really cool. I wish that we would have seen more from him in this issue. But what happens is we see that these aliens, they are essentially in Suicide Slum, and they're buying an old abandoned church. Oh, the stories these walls could tell. Depravity, torture, murder, cannibalism. Oh, absolutely. As head of the Historic Society, I've interviewed eyewitnesses who, thank you, Ms. Gum, but I don't think Mr. Preeter and his friends are interested in yesterday's news. No, we look forward to tomorrow. When will this structure be used to feed the hungry? I just kind of like how he pauses his words for that foreshadowing. Because as they said that they're going to take it, he goes, you misunderstand me. We'll take it. So we get the build up to what is going to be happening in this book. But what's important is if we remember, what was it? It wasn't Action Comics 691. It's starting to kind of blur together. But when Superboy finally got the engine rocket to go over Metropolis, and he finally used all his strength, and then in 691 we kind of see the fallout of what happened. We see here that he's actually had a lot taken out of him. And Maggie Sawyer says, you're supposed to be the Man of Steel, so we were able to put an IV bag in you, but the needle is breaking. He says, there must have been kryptonite in this rocket, which we actually find out that the main part of Engine City is run by kryptonite. But Connor doesn't know that. And Sawyer says, we need your help here. Because he's saying, I got to get back to Engine City. Which here's where it kind of throws me off in this book. I feel like this was too late in the game to try to do an annual and do something funny because Coast City is completely wiped. I feel like these should have been a little bit earlier in the book, but c'est la vie. So we're kind of having to shift gears tonal-wise to go back to street level because then we see Roxy and her douchebag dad saying, oh, yeah, he'll do the mission for you, which is Maggie's wanting him to go after the missing people that are disappearing in Suicide Slum. It's like, yeah, it'll be a great PR stunt. But unlike the last issue where we saw Superboy with Roxy, how they were kind of really innuendoing each other to death, here he's like, I have something more I need to do. And so he takes off. And then we're introduced to the Powers family. I cannot remember this girl's name for the life of me or her uncle's name. But essentially the uncle, we'll get into in a minute. I don't really want to give it away, but they came here looking for the aliens that are eating, the residents of Suicide Slum. So right off the bat, she's wanting to be a hero. She can't do what her uncle does, which we will reveal in a minute. So spoilers abound, but she goes, I've got to help. I've got to help. This is it. But she ends up becoming a victim herself because she goes in without a plan. And this is where I find out that the Force family, as they are called, there's a little more to them. And I just love this full page we get where he's like, I don't think so. And just scares the hell out of these street muggers that were going to hurt the original victim and then his niece. And so she's really heartbroken because she wants to be like the rest of her family, and her family doesn't want her to be a part of this life. But of course, we get that teenage angst, so it's a nice little social satire all the while. And then we get this cool little break with Connor where he's going in trying to gather some intelligence low key, if I could speak. And he ends up in, oh, God, I can't remember his name. Yeah, I can't remember his name. But you guys know who this is. I can't remember his name. Feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. But you can see he looks like a fish out of water. And Bilbo, there it is. And he goes, "Got some ID, kid?" And just throws Connor on his ass. But I love that he's sweet about it. He's one of those tough, like Sailorman type of ways. He goes, "Oh, I don't need ID. See, I'm a deputy for the Metropolis Police." And a deputy, huh? So let's see your badge. They didn't think to give it to me yet. "Nice try, kid. No hard feelings. Come back when you're legal age and old Bibble will buy you one on the house." And then tosses him out on his ass. Just a great little way to show how Bibbo is someone that you do not trifle with, but he can also be a very sweet individual all the while. And then we get back to the threat of the book with the aliens. Again, if you all know the names of the aliens, feel free to let me know, because I, for the life of me, can't remember. But it's opening night of this feast. And I just hate how people are just relatively oblivious to what they're trying to say. They're like, "Good or evil? How could anyone think what you do is evil, Mr. Peter?" Ignorance. I've always felt it should be one of the cardinal sins. And as Peter, the food's in place. Tarry too long and I will be forced to start the feast without you. And it just finally takes this reporter to realize that there is something awry with this quote-unquote feast. And of course, she bites off more than she can chew. And again, the Force family, this gal, which again I cannot remember her name, tries to go in to save the reporter, and she ends up getting bit, which her uncle then feels like he's failed. But thankfully, in the nick of time, before all of her spinal fluid and all that good stuff can be eaten, Superboy enters the fray. And Uncle Harry here ends up butt naked in an alley, and the EMTs just don't know what to make of the situation. Now, without giving too much away, we finally end up with this character who I thought was really cool. It sort of reminds me of Killer Frost, but with electricity. Just like, don't you guys know when you're beat, you're up against Superman and Elektra, Shock, Lady Lightning? And I just love that little Elektra node. That's kind of cool. And the chemistry between the Connor and her is just absolutely phenomenal. And again, remember, as I said, Harry doesn't want the family that Harry's part of, the Force family, does not want this girl to become a hero. But he essentially lets her go and says, "Go on your way. Wherever you go, you're going to find one of us." And it's probably a good idea of me going back to the homestead and breaking the news without you there. And so it's like this coming of age right for her. And Superboy kind of falls head over heels for this lightning gal. And he's just like, bet he won run off on sparks. If he'd known it had been the shock of his life, I'd make it sure of it. I'd do it in a minute, too. But she doesn't reveal who she is, even though Superboy has a major thing for her. Now, of course, we end on a cliffhanger, because even though the aliens have been licked, they are not beaten yet. And I think there is one more annual with this, and I think it has to do with Still. We'll find out eventually. But in a nutshell, this is the Adventures of Superman Annual Issue 5. And that's why I was saying, just right off the bat, I just feel tonally it was too late in the reign of the Superman to drop something like this. I kind of feel like the alien thing should have waited until after Kal-El returned, because other than the Cyborg Superman, all the other Supermen stayed around. But it is what it is. But at least you get to see what happened to Connor after he finally kind of emotionally grew up and sacrificed himself for the people of Metropolis. So overall, it's a fun little read. You're not going to miss anything if you decide to skip on this book and go straight to, I think it's Green Lantern 46 after this. But nonetheless, if you want to read something about some cool characters that you probably never see again, like the Force family and loose cannon, then these annuals are definitely going to be up your alley. The artwork's decent enough, serves the story well. As I said, the Force family, I thought they were a cool little combination working with Connor. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you like to get your action figures and comics, and grab this series. And if you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Force family bell next to subscribe, that way as I can continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.